It is now time for the Port Podcast.
And 3, 2, 1, we are rolling. Hey everybody, I'm Kate Milbury and welcome to the very first episode of the Port Podcast. I'll be one of your co-hosts and these are my other stellar co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Craig Esterbrooks, President and CEO at the Port. This is both the most natural and unnatural thing I think I've ever done. So we're really excited, Kate, that you're working with us and going to co-host this podcast. So my other colleague, Paula Copeland's here.
Hi, I'm Paula Copeland, VP of Engagement and Sustainability at Port St. John, and we're excited to be able to share the Port in a whole new way with you through the podcast. And Kate's been great working with our team, getting this going, so we're really excited.
Yeah, we're excited to, both bringing everyone watching and listening a show both that can understand and be educated a little bit about what's going on in St. John, what some of the community engagement opportunities can be, and basically we just want to talk to others as well about what's going on and about this town. So really excited, and if you're listening or watching, welcome. We're excited to have you. We'll go over a little bit about what this episode is going to be about. We've got a good one for you for the first one. We wanted to load it up. Craig, you want to take us through it?
Yeah, so for the first episode today, we're going to talk a little bit about Harbour Lights, which is a campaign that many St. Johners have known. It's a tremendous importance to our community in a time of need. The holidays is an exciting time, but it's also a very difficult time for many in our community, specifically related to hunger and food security. And Harbour Lights has done a tremendous job raising money for food banks, making sure that people that are in need are getting the right access to food during this time of year. And Paula, I'll say this on Paula's behalf, she's been involved in Harbour Lights for many, many, many years and is a really key part of why it's been successful. So maybe, Paula, you can talk a little bit about your experience with Harbour Lights and what you've done.
When I first came to the Port, because I'm in my 24th year now, Harbour Lights was, I think, maybe a year old at that time. And I've been really pleased over the years to see how the community has embraced the idea. The idea was brought to us back then by CPC, and they wanted to put a tree on a barge and float it in the harbor and have people see the lights come on gradually as donations came in. And Captain Soppet, who was the CEO at the time, had to explain, how that was not practical for shipping.
Yeah, a great idea, but not innovative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the engineer at the time, Port Vi, worked with a couple of contractors and our maintenance team and devised the tree as we know it now, which is on an 80-foot light standard at Long Wharf. And over the years, the community has donated in big and small ways. We've had everything from large corporate donations, bake sales, open mic nights, Santa tolls at Point Lepreau for the staff. There's a spin-a-thon that takes place in Grand Bay at one of the exercise facilities there. There's the infamous mugs, which I know we're going to talk about later.
Coming up this week.
Exactly.
Get them while they're hot.
That's
exactly.
Right.
There'll be a lineup.
And the cumulative effect of all of those things is over the last 25 campaigns. We're in our 26th this year. Is the campaign has raised $3.25 million.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and that goes to food banks from St. Stephen to Sussex and even the Funday Isles. And this year, actually, Campobello was added into our district.
Incredible.
So it's 16 food banks now that
Wow.
benefit.
Something interesting, and why I was like I wanted to be on the show is because everyone, whether you've lived here for a long time or not, you're going to learn something on the show. So I just learned something. I've lived here for 34 years, my entire life. I did not know that that's where the tree came from.
Yes.
I thought that it was something that the city does every year.
Yeah, a lot of people think that. Actually, we're
Like you would just isn't that?
Yeah.
Anybody else in
Yeah.
the room would probably agree.
Probably.
Yeah, so
I
that's
think
cool.
unless you are an avid CBC listener, because of course for the 3 weeks that they talk about it on air quite heavily, those folks know about it. But unless you listen to that program, you probably don't know. And we're trying to help a little bit on the port side with letting people know more. This episode will help. We're doing a little video later today that shows why the tree lights up slowly, because we're seeing a lot of chatter on social media why is that tree not all the way lit yet? Why is it just
Yeah,
a
you
few
think
strands?
the city would do something about that and get lights that work. What did four of them break out? Did a fuse break? What's
sure
going
there's a
on?
lot of
That's
that,
right.
a lot of that.
So we're
Yeah.
going to hopefully have people understand more about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're watching or listening, just know that it's done intentionally. It's very strategic, and get your donations in for Harbour Lights, and they'll just be lighting up, popping off.
Yeah. Canada helps. Just look up Harbour Lights.
Well, and Paul, you did a great job kind of weaving in the Port Authority's involvement, and we as a port care deeply, not just about Harbour Lights, but a lot of charitable giving throughout the year. So later in the episode, we are going to talk a little bit about poverty in the community and what role the port can play, both from a charitable giving standpoint, but also from a job creation standpoint on the waterfront to help some of those priority needs as well.
And I think, if you're listening or watching, if you have, some opinions or some thoughts or some innovative solutions or even just, a different angle, we're really interested in learning that, because we don't just want to be a silo for just our own feedback or our own loop, right? So that's why it's important to get other boards and other organizations really working together on the same initiatives and on the same common problems, right, to actually make an impact. So if you are listening or watching, there are definitely get in touch with us, social media, email, website, reach out individually to us if you're, wanting to maybe stay anonymous, but we'd love to hear, your thoughts on some of these things. And I know that we have a special guest actually joining us. With a fun announcement. Hey, Doug, are you around? Is there a Doug in the house? We have a special guest.
Oh, he's here. We can see him.
Goodness. Oh my goodness.
Doug is a very important person in our port community.
I told you we had a very, very fulfilled episode for you, right. This first episode. So Doug, welcome to the very first episode of the Port Podcast.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
We're excited to have you. I'm Kate. Nice to meet you.
Kate.
Yeah.
And I'm Craig. We know each other.
We know each other.
Yeah, I think I know Craig.
Well, thank you for coming on. We're excited to hear a little bit about what you got going on with Nutrien and Yeah,
so today we had the opportunity on CBC to announce a donation to Harbour Lights of $200,000 to be used over the next 4 years.
Wow.
So $50,000 a year. I think that'll help
that's phenomenal. Wow.
16 food banks.
Wow.
And give them a little bit of knowledge that next year there'll be some money to kick it off. So it's, really glad that we could do this.
And, we're definitely seeing, especially over the past year or so, there's definitely more of a need from those organizations and from the people needing those resources. So that's not like, I'm sure we all live and see it, but thank you so much for that donation. That's great.
No, I'm really happy to be able to donate in the community in which we work. I mean, having the Port Potash terminal here in St. John and having our mine outside of Sussex, the communities in which our employees work have the opportunity to give back. And so all positive.
Yeah, I think it's really, it's telling about obviously the work ethic of you and your company and the team that you hold, because it's easy just to give something real quick and it's a nice little PR opportunity and then you leave and it is what it is. But like you said, you live and you work and you walk around here and you see it, and it's nice to know that those organizations will have a little bit next year. So that's awesome. Good for you.
And I'll just add to Doug and his team at Nutrien and many other partners have been part of this community and part of the fabric of this port for multi-decades. And it's just so great to see their continued active involvement. And it speaks to the fact that we as a port community care deeply about the citizens that are around our facilities and the employees, really care deeply. So thanks for tying that back into the community that we all work in. I think it's important.
And on our part, we're always thankful that Port of St. John include us in things like this, but and certainly the work that 26 years of Port of St. John and CBC doing this is absolutely amazing.
Are we going to see you wrestling for a mug on Friday morning? Or do you have someone going in line for you?
It'll depend on how my flights get me back
Okay.
home Thursday. If I'm back in Thursday night, I may have to come down and
all right,
sort of push Craig out of the way.
Well, we'll have to see, right? It'll be a roller derby match of the fines, right?
From a weight perspective, I probably have them, but agility is probably ahead.
You never know.
So it'll be an interesting battle.
You never know these days, and you never know what we'll talk about on the show,
There
right?
you go.
So
There
I
you
think
go.
I think Friday's going to be like a lot of fun, and I think this announcement and just. Like that's it's a surplus in giving. So I think that's great. So thank you so much. That's great.
I think for $200,000 we may be able to set a mug aside for you, but I'm not. I'm not sure.
Look at that.
Maybe for $250 we could guarantee the mug.
I'll go look. I'll go work on that.
Okay. Just
do we have a $250 going once?
We're gonna make this an auction now. Yeah.
Hey, we're all about evolution here and just rolling with it. So it is what it is, right? So
Well, thank you, Doug. This has been fantastic. Thanks for coming on the show.
No problem.
Our first one, and we hope that you and your colleagues at Nutrien come on this podcast again throughout the year and tell your story about just how important potash is to global food security.
Yeah.
You're feeding the world, and we're doing it right through the Port of St. John.
Perfect.
So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Very good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for the first one.
There you go.
thank you. Nice to meet you. That's what we're all doing here, just doing the work, right?
That's right.
Well, it's really nice having folks, like Doug, who go above and beyond to think about like their profits and how they're affecting community. I think that's honestly, and the word may not be it, but baller, gangster. I think it's very cool. I think it's very telling, like I said, of organizations that care more about people and the planet than necessarily profit. So on like the B Corp kind of side of it, right? And that funding donation is pretty substantial.
Oh, it's
And
definitely.
Nutrien goes above and beyond all of their operation here at St. John. Paul and I can attest.
Definitely.
They've just, whether it's charitable giving or being responsive to people around them, great employer through the years. Nutrien's
Right.
a fantastic partner.
And that is the single largest donation
Yeah.
that campaign has received one time. So
Is that right?
pretty significant. Yeah.
Well, if you're listening and watching and you have more than $200,000, you can be the next biggest contributor to the Harbour Lights campaign. No, I think it's really good, like I said, that people are looking at things from a different lens on that, because it's fine to just write a check, but it's good to think about it being multi-year. That's what I really appreciate about him saying that, because it could just, I like that they'll probably work with Romero House and the 16 other places that are, working together to actually see how they can continue to make an impact. And it's the same with the port. It's the same with a lot of other, organizations. So, and like poverty, I mean, we live here. I've lived here my whole life. So I live with some of the richest people and some of the poorest people on my part of the ward.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it definitely means something when I see the people that are CEOs of companies speak like with their hearts and their pockets rather than just, taking up the perks personally.
Well, Kate, that's a great point about the multi-year funding, point and poverty in general. St. John, we've got so many tremendous organizations like the 16 food banks and many others, but core funding on a multi-year basis is a struggle for so many.
Yeah.
And there's been a reluctance to kind of invest multi-year, and you look at the core funding versus projects that charities often get, and the core aspect of funding to enable organizations to hire staff and have some predictability is often overlooked.
No, you're right.
And we and I think that's part of the conversation that we want to have throughout the year about the port and the city, economic and social prosperity, and just how we have to all be part of the solution to help people out of poverty and have our community be more sustainable.
What do you have to say about that, Paula?
I think it's absolutely vital that we look at it as a holistic approach, because the issue of poverty and the challenges surrounding it are very commonly known here, because it's been a decades long problem for the community. And I think that it isn't any one entity's responsibility or even to be able to do it. So I think that a common approach is the only way to go about it. And I know there are a lot of organizations working in that space. There are a lot of companies trying to assist, and I just think that that's part of the solution. We can't always just rely on the government to take up on these issues. The government has a role, but the whole society is.
Yeah, I think too, and I'll just speak candidly about it because I'm not tied to anything or anyone, right? But to me, I think it's really important that if you're lending your time, your expertise on some of these, organizations or on boards, that you really look at where the effort might be duplicated.
Yeah.
And rather than being, the next thing in the newspaper, maybe it's not getting, sound bites or shout outs or photo ops. It's actually just more behind the scenes work. And I see a lot of that with the port. I think a lot of people like myself would say that we see the port constantly getting press, and it's all usually very good. It's about expansion. It's about workforce. It's all good, but it doesn't peel the onion back to just some of the things that I've learned over the past 4 or 5 weeks in preparation of making this show. So I think people really have to dig into, what are those groups doing? How are they really looking to fight some of those issues? And, are you able to lend a couple of hours? Is there, a strategic planning committee or someplace that you can lend that time? Otherwise, my grandfather said, if you don't have a solution, don't chirp about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great point. And we, for the last number of years, we give our employees time to volunteer. I think, it's one thing to encourage people to volunteer in off hours, but that's not always fair. People have their own lives and are very busy and have their struggles behind the scenes that sometimes an employer is not aware of.
Right.
So the more we can give actual time during the day to volunteer. I've been really fortunate through my decade plus at the port. I've been given time during the day to volunteer with the Crescent Valley Resource Center, on Change, the Learning Exchange, some of the great groups in the city that I may not have had that time in off hours.
Right.
And I know Paula and a lot of folks on your team are doing that today.
Yeah, they're working with United Way.
Yeah.
I'm on the Imperial Theater Board, Seafarers Mission Board. There's many ways to help.
There is.
Yeah.
And we do try to donate. I think it's, to your point, Kate, it's a multi-pronged approach. Last week we did announce at our holiday party we're going to give 5,000 to each of the 5 priority for that core operational funding. And that'll help, but I think that's only a piece of it. You got to get people volunteering and helping on the front lines.
And I think good leadership, when you look at certain organizations, and I'm not biased because we're here at the Port Podcast, but good leadership, good teams mean that morale culture is very good. Values are shared and aligned, which means that you're not out busting, your all your energy to go to the Harbour Lights campaign. You want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And you're excited to park your car uptown St. John
at
and
get
5
there
in
the morning,
right?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I think a lot of people, it's easy to say, oh, parking sucks, or these things, or whatever it is, right? But there are people who are really going above and beyond just what their role is at their job per se to ensure that other people are being taken care of. When I'll be honest, there are people that are sitting on boards that are getting paid very, very nicely, and good for them, but they're not making the same impact that you guys are doing. So I think it's time for, people to be accountable on where some of that funding might be going. And if it's better to silo it into other organizations because they're more impactful, I think I think it's an important conversation to look at. And people who are listening and watching, I want to know your opinions on it. And if you're someone who's maybe never gotten to work on those boards or in that space and you have solutions, there's space, there's lots of places for your voice to, be heard. And if you have solutions or even just a different way to look at it, I think it gives people that are in charge or have the power to do it or make bylaw changes or whatever that might be. And then you make an impact that way.
I'm going to do something that's always dangerous and call out one specific group that I really enjoy working with. And I know because there's many. So please, audience, send us all the groups.
Yeah, don't cancel us on episode 1.
Don't cancel us on episode 1, but I want to give an example of one that kind of goes above and beyond and hits everything Kate just said, and that's the St. John Learning Exchange. I mentioned to them earlier. I've been involved a little bit. I think Christina Fowler, who's the CEO of the Learning Exchange, is one of the best leaders in the city and the province. By far, Christina could run absolutely anything. She just oozes that confidence and the team just rallies around her. But for those of you that don't know, the Learning Exchange is very important to the port and kind of the greater employment piece. There are adult literacy learning programs. They do have a youth program now as well. It's total wraparound services so that if someone is trying to get some type of education, that all of the different pieces that will help enable them to secure that education is there. They've been doing this for decades. Christina's been leading that organization for a long time, but we're going to profile them hopefully on a future episode. But why it's so impactful to the port, we were able through our workforce partnership committee be able to establish relationships between the Learning Exchange and the union that employs all of the workforce at our port, the International Longshore Local 273. And because there's that relationship, people are getting the opportunity to apply for meaningful employment. And we're going to talk about that a lot in future episodes, but the wages on the waterfront are pretty much double the living wage that Randy Hatfield and Human Development Council put up.
We're getting some applause on that one. Yeah, no, that's important.
So we're going to do a big deep dive into that throughout the year. I think it's going to be a big theme of this podcast, but I just wanted to share that this is the type when we can unite behind the opportunity at the port, the type of wages that people can get working on the waterfront really can help drive this community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, there's so many like layers to that onion too, right? Because I don't necessarily know if a lot of folks here are used to making money like that, right? And I think it's great. And I think, we're going to see a different shift in, whether it be housing and things like that as a result. So I think like those are all super good, and shout out to, St. John Learning Exchange. You're doing great work, and, it's definitely recognized. That's for sure.
And the last point, and then I'll stop because I could talk about the Learning Exchange all day, is that it's not even just about the wage. The wage is incredibly important, but it's the services that they provide the learners,
right,
that help them, because wage is only one piece of the greater puzzle.
Yeah, I think, they've done a really great job both visually and articulating through different channels of what should be fair, what should be expected, how those changes can be made. And, if that's already, being done just over, in these different unions, I think it sets precedent for others to push for better and push more for the status quo than it was. Right. I think it's easy to say like, oh, don't be okay with just okay, but it's hard to get for better, and most people are just living paycheck to paycheck, and they're one paycheck away from a bad emergency, So I think, those are things that around here we really do have to pay attention to. And, all that to say, like, I know through this episode, we have a few different topics: poverty, how Harbour Lights, contributed, I think it all wraps into a better town and a better place to live, play, and work, and just to be, a community. And I'd be curious to hear a little bit more about your thoughts on some of the poverty stuff here.
Yeah, I think your last point is great. It's all about how we make this community a more livable, attractive place for people who want to set up their lives and have the best had the best experience possible.
Yeah.
And oftentimes people look at the fact that we're a port and we bring cargo in, and it's not always a straight line. There is noise. There are challenges related to living in a port city, and I think we just need to have that open, honest dialogue about how we overcome some of those challenges, and that's what we're hoping to accomplish with this podcast this year. Is really as well get people's feedback. I know Kate mentioned several times, send your questions in. We want to have a feedback loop that's meaningful, and we want to have dialogues about things like poverty and job creation, but also some of the challenges of living in a port city. But I do have the fundamental belief that if you look anywhere around the world, some of the best cities that people choose to live in that tackle big issues like poverty are port cities. You look at whether it be London, Long Beach, Rotterdam. There's European, North American experiences and many others around the world where port cities are able to come together and tackle big issues and become the most attractive places for people to want to live. So that's what we want to create.
Yeah, I'm really excited, to be doing the show because I'm already learning so much just working with you both and the team here. And like I said, it's something I look at from both sides. I've lived here my whole life, but there are so many little buildings and little companies and places and people from all over the world that you're working with that I don't think that the average Johnner knows. And I'm speaking from experience. I think it's going to be really cool to find out more about how this place works, because it is a very, you guys are leading experts. You're doing a lot of innovative things. You're setting precedent for, our city to, continue to stay on the global map based on, in order for us to get goods and services, it's you guys doing the front lines work. Mm-hmm. And it's easy for us to sit and watch Netflix and do things and chirp about it and whatever. But it's, you guys are the ones doing the work and roll your sleeves up for us to get our online orders and get food and get appliances. It's bigger. It's so much bigger than just cruise ships and expansion, and you know what I mean?
It's interesting when you say that, because I do think that there's like a shield over a lot of what we do, just because of the nature of the business, because there's a wall of security and a lot of things happen behind a gate. But we are trying to open that up more. Like we tried over the last number of years to do that. We're doing different things now. We're doing some more innovative things. Last week, Jillian on our team went on with a crew to one of the cargo ships to talk to the seafarers, because we're doing a little bit of a gift drive for them this year. And I happened to be chatting with somebody over the weekend, and I mentioned that this video was done and it's going to be coming out. And they'd said, "Wow, you mean it's not Canadians working on those ships?" And a lot of people don't even realize fact that everybody on those ships is coming from somewhere else. Like they've been going around the world taking goods to different ports. They're There are
And they're proud
Ukrainians.
to be here.
They
you know
love
what I mean?
anything,
And it's
anything with a maple leaf on it. They love it. I picked up some stuff for the drive on the weekend, and I grabbed, a couple of toques that have Canadian flags and Smarties that had maple leafs on them because they just love that kind of stuff. Yeah. But it's just interesting to take that shield back and see what actually is going on. So that's what we're hoping to do here.
Yes. Wow. Really stoked that we're doing this. If you're listening and watching, thank you. This episode, like I said, we've covered a lot of different topics. We're going to be covering lots more. I'm really excited for Friday, Harbour Lights.
We're excited too.
And we're going to be wrapping up here in a minute, and you're going to see me very early at the St. John City Market. Just roller derbying my way. Hopefully no one gets hurt. I'm just joking. Because I will be getting a mug. Okay. And we'll see Paula there. It's going to be great. There'll be lots of breakfast. CBC is going to be there. It's going to be a really fun time. It's been, I know there was a little bit of one the year previous, but I think the last 4 or 5 years with COVID and stuff, there hasn't really been that. And I think this is the first year that I felt that Harbour Lights is back to the level that it was with the broadcast and stuff. So I'm really excited. So yeah. I hope everybody gets out. This episode will be dropping right after Harbour Lights, but obviously if you're listening, you were there, you've probably got a mug and you know that I've got mine. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Paula, for, being on the show and for having me. I'm super excited. Thank you, everyone, for listening and for watching.
Can't wait to see what's going to come.
Yep. 2023 is going to be a big year. Thank you,
Yes.
Kate. You're the one who made this podcast interesting and exciting, and we really look forward to it.
No, I'm excited. Until next time, we'll talk to you later. It's Kate. We're at the market. I'm with Carrie and Shelley. How you doing today, Carrie?
Great. Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Shelley.
Awesome. Good morning.
We're here. It's the Harbour Lights Campaign mug sale here at the market. How long have you guys been volunteering with the Harbour Lights?
About 3 years for me, so first time in-person event. Very excited.
And you, Shelley?
I think it's 10 years. It's been around. Yeah, I'm with one of the...
10 years?
I'm with one of the food banks.
Oh, wow. Which food bank?
I'm with the West Side Food Bank.
And how long have you been there?
It's 15 years.
Good for you. Wow. That makes 15 years. I've been a St. Johnner my whole life, so it's a big thing what food banks do for our population. So thank you for the work that you both do. I really appreciate it. Harbour Lights has always been a big deal here in the city. It definitely helps feed people. It helps keep things going. And obviously having CBC, mayor and council, everyone here is really exciting. What's your favorite part of Harbour Lights?
I think the sense of community, being able to contribute and just capitalize on the good feelings that the city has and for such a great cause.
I think for us, we just see the generosity all the time. And then when this comes out, and then in January, February, when we get the donations, it's amazing because we can just buy so much stuff and just be able to not breathe. We can breathe.
And have you guys both got a mug today yet?
Yes.
Me too.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, guys. If you haven't already got to Harbour Lights, make sure you get here. I'm here with Kate Wilcott. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Kate. How are you?
I'm well. And can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing here at Harbour Lights this morning?
I am one of the aproned reindeers I'm collecting donations. I'm giving people directions as they come in. They want to know how to get to the mugs, how to get to the breakfast, and how to get to the donations.
And the coffee. And the coffee. Yeah, we're thriving with coffee this morning. So, how long have you been affiliated with the Harbour Lights?
Well, I can't remember a time before Harbour Lights, really, as just a citizen who would come in and but I've been on the board since 2019, I believe. Yeah. So my first actual Harbour Lights as a Harbour Lights volunteer or elf was the 2020 Harbour Lights mug sale that was online. But it's fantastic to be back here.
And so nice to see it back populated, mugs flying off the imaginary market shelves. But I don't know if there's much left. Did you get one this year?
I am getting one, hopefully.
Do you have someone in a disguise going through and just grabbing it?
No, not
I always like to think that there's something undercover going on.
I thought this would be my disguise, but obviously I've been found out. Yeah.
Well, I honestly, as a St. Johner, I've mentioned on a couple other interviews, Harbour Lights obviously does, a huge deal for, the city and food banks and feeding people. So I think the more that people get to know how to support it and, like how to come out and, be present for it, it's big. And, I appreciate you always being part of the, community and volunteering and doing things. And, I thank you so much for all you do, Kate. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Kate. Well, this is just a fantastic, it's a festive, excited, almost in this case, a party atmosphere. But we're doing good things, and we're making other people's season a little brighter.
We are at Uncorked right now at the City Market, and I'm here with Raven. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good. I'm very good. I'm caffeinated, fully caffeinated.
And so what brought you out this morning? Was it the coffee? Was it the mugs? What was it?
I like the music. I'm here for the music and the vibe, and it's something I do every year. Come here for Harbour Lights, so I didn't want to miss this one.
Yeah, I'm really excited that it's back. We're able to have people in the market again. We're seeing vendors. I smell breakfast. It's nice. And, one of the things, as a St. Johner, I've been saying on these interviews is like, Harbour Lights is something I've known for a long time around here. Didn't really understand the magnitude of the volunteers and the impact of the mug sale and stuff until really the last few years. And with the lack of the CBC broadcast stuff, it's really nice to see people back. Have you gotten a mug yet?
I have not gotten a mug yet. I have a paper cup today.
You might have to rustle some people here shortly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Hope to have you back here soon.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm still at the market at the Harbour Lights Campaign, and I'm with a good pal and big St. Johner.
Hi, hello everyone.
Really stoked to have you on the show. We're here at the Harbour Lights Campaign. Did you get a mug yet?
I got 2 mugs.
I figured.
I'm hoping to go back. I said when it's allowed that people can come for a second round, I wish to come back. I do like to give them as Christmas presents, and I like to collect them. We were just talking about it with Councillor Hickey, and he has 6, I have 12.
That's pretty good. I wonder if there's anyone that could beat that collection.
Oh, I'm sure.
So what brings you out to Harbour Lights?
Oh, well, we love it. It's obviously Harbour Lights Campaign is a very necessary fundraiser in the city, and the money going to the food banks and to help people. I mean, it's a tradition. We all support it. We all know the money's going to a good cause, and most importantly, that the money is being used when it's needed. So in the months of February and January and February, when people really, really need the help and the Christmas donations are passed, it will be used. And so there's a lot of encouragement for people to give because we know that the money's being used well. And so it is a Christmas tradition too for the citizens to come and be here at this early hour of the day, and it's nice to see everyone. It's wonderful to be back in person.
Yeah, you're so right about what Harbour Lights is, and you can hear Hillary Ladd and the Christmas dads in the background, and I think this is a big thing for St. John. On top of the donation part and the breakfast part, it's seeing people again, and it's really nice to see you. By the way,
You too. Thank you.
thank you so much for being on the show this morning.
Thank you so much. Now we're all in the Christmas spirit.
I know, right?